Hello, everybody, and welcome to Benivo Bites. I am super excited. We've got such an amazing show lined up for you. I mean, I like to think we've always got pretty amazing shows, but I tell you, we have got some really, really, really cool technology we're going to be sharing with you. I think you're going to see technology that is I think it is the future of expense management. It's the future of parts of global mobility. It's some really cool stuff. So bear with me and we will get onto that in a while. We've got other stuff before that, but we've got some really great technology. People are coming in from all over the world, which is lovely. I saw Emily there, saw Stephanie from ERC, Drew Phillip from San Francisco, people coming over. It's especially nice to see all you Americans at the moment, because I know, of course, we've got Thanksgiving coming up. So, you know, today's the day, presumably you're doing a last minute shopping or you're preparing to go and see your family. And, you know, it's a great holiday and we wish you all the best. So maybe just start off by saying a big happy Thanksgiving to all our American friends who are with us today, and indeed those who aren't with us and who are going to watch it on catch up. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Have a great long weekend. But let me tell you a little bit about what we've got coming up. So today, as I said, we're going to be talking about using machine learning and artificial intelligence to automate expense management. And that is really, really cool stuff. So, you know, bear with us and you are going to love it. But what about in the weeks that are coming up over the next couple of weeks? Well, next week, on The View from the Top, it's a really special episode. I'm going to introduce you to a lady by the name of Marcia Longdon, who is an immigration partner in a leading law firm. And we're going to share her story. Now, her story is, in fact, she was one of the very few Black female partners in leading law firms. And she has come through a fairly tough childhood, experienced a lot of racism, harassment, microaggressions, and she's going to be talking about her career path, what her inspired her to become a lawyer, given where she was coming from, and how that actually inspired her to go into law. Firstly, as a criminal lawyer to help defend people, like her brother, who were being pulled over and arrested quite regularly. And then she later became a human rights lawyer and then an immigration lawyer. You will not want to miss it. It is a really inspirational story. So that's next week. And then the week after that, on the 8th of December, we're in December already by the time we're doing this. Incredible. We're going to talk about, almost on a similar theme, how you can use technology to remove inadvertent discrimination in your mobility program. So that's on the 8th of December. And then our last show of the year, believe it or not, is in 3 weeks' time on the 15th of December. And that's the big reveal. I mean, nominations have now closed for the top 100. We have had thousands of nominations. It's been so exciting. Many congratulations to everybody who has been nominated. Obviously, not everybody can make the final list, but congratulations to everybody who's been nominated. And as I said, we will be we will be doing the big reveal on the 15th of December. So do make sure you're with us on the 15th of December. It's going to be a great show. So I said we've got 3 great shows coming up over the next 3 weeks and a really great show today. So, so that's what we've got in terms of our news. I've seen people coming in from all over the world, from Nashville, from Bangalore, from Microphilia, from Southern California, from Budapest. It's just great to see you all, so many of you coming in, which is absolutely wonderful. Now, we always like to do a breaking news feature on this and talk about who are the movers and shakers and everything else that, that has been happening. I try and do it every week to make sure we do a little breaking news feature. It's only a minute long, so let's look at what's happened in the world of mobility in the last 7 days. So here's our breaking news for the last 7 days. So congratulations to everybody who's had a new job announced in the last week. A particular congratulations to Tara Hagan for being awarded the GEO Star, the Global Equity Organization Star Award. Many congratulations to her. Many congratulations to Santa Fe on the launch of their Global Immigration Survey. I must say it's one of the biggest and most comprehensive and long-standing surveys our industry produces. And a particular congratulations to everybody in the Partners Immigration Network, a new network of immigration of lawyers working together globally. If you don't know them, then do check them out. So congratulations to everybody. And I know there's a few people from Partners Immigration in the audience. Feel free to blow your trumpet and to hit your like button or to make a comment in the comments box. But on the theme of immigration, of course, it's not our normal show if we haven't got Julia Onslow-Cole to tell us a little bit about this week's immigration update. So everybody, let's big it up. Let's hit the like button, hit the heart button, hit the applause button, and let's give a really good welcome to the one and only Julia Onslow-Cole. Julia, hello, and where are you today?
Dubai, yes.
Okay, and how's it all going? How's Dubai?
Yes, it's absolutely lovely, although I seem to have got a cold, but I think that's because it's so warm outside and then you have the aircon on, so you keep moving between the aircon and the heat, but it's lovely. I was at the expo this morning at the UK Pavilion. In fact, the UK Justice Minister was there talking about legal services. It was really good.
Okay, well, this is really impressive that you're struggling through whatever bug you've picked up from the air conditioning. So everybody in the audience, let's give a shout out to Julia for being a real trooper and for giving us this immigration update, despite being hit by whatever lurgy is out there. As long as it's not the lurgy that, of course, we're all worried about these days. So Julia, you're going to be giving us your immigration update. So where in the world are we going today?
Yes, we're going to AsiaPac. So I wanted to give everyone a really comprehensive update on AsiaPac. It's a really important region for so many businesses, and there's such a lot is happening. And I want to say a huge thank you to my colleagues, particularly Mark Buchanan, Becky Shear and Kenny Lau. So just going to canter through some of the countries in the AsiaPac region. So starting with Singapore. So, as we've been talking about over the recent months, Singapore started with a COVID zero policy and then moved to a vaccination policy. And they entered what they called a stabilization period from November the 21st. And that's when they started this transition period, which they called living with COVID. And the daily numbers are about 3,000 a day on average, which is obviously minute when you compare it to somewhere like the UK, but still it's quite high for when you were thinking about what we were talking about originally in Singapore. But they're nevertheless pressing on with this living with COVID. And you will recall that we, for many months, explained that unless you were a Singaporean citizen or had PR, you had to get entry approval to go back into Singapore. And then from August, Singapore classified countries depending on their COVID risk into 4 categories. And if you were in the bottom category, you just couldn't enter. Now those holding a long-term pass or in principle approval letter, they can travel. And there's 2 ways of traveling. The first is through a work pass holder general lane. So everything's a bit of a mouthful, but it's called a WPHL. Or the second way is through the vaccinated travel lane. Now, if you're going under the work pass holder general lane, you have to be fully vaccinated. And if you have children between 12 and 18, they don't have to be fully vaccinated when they arrive in Singapore, but within 2 months, they must be vaccinated in Singapore. And these are subject to availability, and also they have to be applied for by your employer. So you'll also recall that from late October, we saw travelers coming in from countries that were previously banned, like India, which was also good news. So the alternative from that lane that I've just described, where employers have to apply, there's a vaccinated travel lane. And that's for individuals who want to go to Singapore, and they are fully vaccinated travelers. And now there's a large number of countries they can go into Singapore from. And from the 6th of December, they're adding the UAE, Saudi, and Qatar. Now, a couple of top tips. So the first is that many employers got really excited about this vaccinated travel lane because they thought, well, that's good. Employees can just do it themselves and we don't have to monitor it. But we're actually seeing quite a lot of people getting into a lot of confusion with this. And so on the whole, most companies, if it's a business trip, they're actually applying for people under the first leg that I explained. So I think that if you have someone who is on an important business trip to Singapore, I want you to remember that you should really investigate this first work pass holder general lane, because I think
so the top tip is to look at the work pass holder general lane,
yes,
not the vaccinated lane.
Yes. And the second
thing,
a bit
counterintuitive.
Yes. And the second thing is that you have to monitor the situation so carefully, because we've been finding that countries are just coming on and off that list all the time. So it's really important that you keep monitoring it. Even if you book your tickets, you think everything's fine, just keep monitoring it. Now, turning over to Hong Kong. Hong Kong are the strictest country in the world at the moment, the strictest quarantine. They are adopting a complete zero COVID policy. And to do these updates, I'm actually ringing the countries, speaking to the partners, speaking to businesses in Hong Kong. And they're all pretty, worried about the position of business, because there's a huge pressure on people in Hong Kong, many who haven't traveled for months. If you leave Hong Kong and you come back in, you have to quarantine in a facility for up to 3 weeks. And there's a huge demand for these facilities. And what happened in early October, there was the first COVID case in more than 50 days. And in the previous 50 days, they hadn't had one single case, but they had one case. And this resulted in a huge tightening of everything. And now all of the exemptions from quarantine, which were being given to top business travelers, have been taken away. So it's very, very, very difficult, and it's putting an enormous pressure on business, particularly financial services, making up 21% of Hong Kong's GDP. The next thing to say is Malaysia. We've had a reduction in the general mandatory quarantine. It's gone down from 14 days to 7 to 10, which is good. And you no longer need exit and return permission if you're holding a long-term pass. And they say that there's going to be a vaccinated travel lane with Singapore soon. So moving on to China. China, we still have the entry ban. We're seeing a gradual lifting of the entry requirements for dependents. And do you remember I told you a couple of weeks ago, good idea to push those forward, all those applications with dependents. And we're getting a lot of inquiries for people who are working in China who want to go home for the holidays. And the advice there is, if it's a short trip and they're vaccinated and they don't come from a list of 11 countries, which you'd have a huge problem getting back in if you came from those, it should be okay. But otherwise, really, really look carefully for people for this. Moving on to Australia, much happier news there. From the 1st of December, skilled temporary workers and other listed temporary visa holders, if they're fully vaccinated, they no longer need to seek this exemption to go into Australia. Sydney and Melbourne, there's no caps on international arrivals and no quarantine if you're fully vaccinated. But other states have some limits, but overall, terribly positive. And just finishing now on Japan, I think that the moves to reopen Japan have been very rocky indeed. We're getting a lot of inquiries, people wanting to send their people into Japan. You recall that we had the Tokyo Olympics, and you recall that when we did an update after that, there was a spike in COVID cases. On the 5th of November, Japan announced that they'd be reopening, but they'd focused only on students, foreign students and technical trainees. We are getting some long-term assignees into the country, but it's a really convoluted system. And what you do is you have to get a formal application to the ministry that has jurisdiction for your business. So if it's financial services, it has to be like an FSA. But it's very, it's very odd, and many businesses don't know who in fact is supposed to be regulating them. And it is, we think it's to spread the capacity. But the only good thing is it was taking 6 to 10 weeks, and now it's 3. So overall, a bit of an improvement, but a bit of a mixed picture.
Okay, Julia, that was a tour de force for someone who we can see sort of is suffering a little bit with the lurgy. That was a real tour de force. We are so grateful that you've battled through and you're with us today. So everybody, please, let's hit the like, hit the heart, hit the applause. Big thank you to Julia Onslow-Cole, who will be back with us again next week. And now we're going to move into the technology section. After all, it is a technology show. And we are going to show you, you're going to be blown away. We're going to show you some really real cool technology. And we're going to be doing some live demos of it. I'm delighted that I'm joined by Nitsan Udan and Beth Nielsen from Benivo. So let's say goodbye to Julia and let's bring on Nitsan and Beth onto the show and let's talk tech. Nitsan, Beth, I must tell you, it's just great to see you here, and I'm so excited about that. I think I'm more excited than the tech guys are that have developed this, because I know this is really cool tech. I'm delighted I've actually seen a bit of a sneak preview of it, but this is radical stuff. So and I know we're going to be talking about expense management and how expense management can be transformed by technology. I think all of us in the mobility game knows how expense management can be actually a bit of a pain. it can be quite a manual process. It can be quite a frustrating process, and you end up with a situation where maybe the assignee isn't happy because they're not getting their money quickly enough. The RMC is not happy because they're sort of having to deal with a lot of manual paper, etc. The client's not happy, and it just generally seems to be a bit of a sort of an area where hiccups can happen. But we think we've sort of dealt with a number of these issues, and we're going to talk about how expense management can be transformed by technology. Nitsan, I mean, you're the CEO, and I mean, I'm going to challenge you a little bit on this. Might be more than my job's worth, but I'm going to challenge you. And why don't we go straight into the technology? I mean, if you want to see the technology, hit the like button, hit the applause, hit the heart. Tell us you want to see it, and tell us what you think about it as we go through, and ask us your questions. You know, the Benivo philosophy is that we are very, very transparent. We try and develop things in public with you. So, you know, give us your comments as we go through, and let us know what you think. So, Nitsan, tell us a bit about the technology and what you're going to show us now.
So, like everything else in Benivo, it really started from the clients. And one of our customers came to us and say, hey, can you guys do expense management for us? And as you guys already know us, when we are asked questions that starts with can you, we answer yes. And then they said how many expenses they want us to process for them. And they're saying, so you will need to hire all those people in order to deliver. And we're like, whoa. We are not doing this manually. Surely technology can help there. And that's when we went on the mission to see how can we automate expense management and really transform how we can use the latest technology available on machine learning, on artificial intelligence. And I explain all these acronyms later today, I promise. But how is that going to really make finally an impact on our life in mobility? Because this technology is used everywhere else except the one place where we call our job. So that's what we are here today to announce. That super proud of that. I'm impressed by Benivo team for the unbelievable work they've done in the last few months to really make this concept into a product. But let's see what it does. So I'll share my screen.
Hang on, okay. Just bear with me, Nitsan. I'm just going to add your screen to the screen so the audience can see it. Okay, so what we're seeing now is the normal home screen. That's correct, isn't it, Nitsan?
Yes, that's the Benivo platform. If this is the first time you're seeing a demo of Benivo, then we'll get a chance to show you more in one of the other previous shows or future shows or in person. But what we see here is a demo client, Stark Industries. It will be, of course, branded as your corporate, but we will look how this works. And on this platform, we have the money section. And now to the money, we've added, there is the pay later, the lump sum payments, and now we also have expense reimbursement. And I'm going to log in here.
So as we've got it here, this says no expenses uploaded. So this is if you like, this is the start. Okay. So some of this, by the way, out there in the audience, I know some of this is quite small. You may want to enlarge your screens as large as possible to see it, because we are going to show you some pretty cool stuff. But I'll try and make the screen as big as possible for you as we go through.
Thank you. So it's time to upload a receipt, right? And the best way to do it is from the mobile app. So actually, I'm going to now do it live on the mobile app. I have here a real receipt that's been in my pocket. Even I can smash it a little bit for a bit too long. I can't even read it. Maybe I need glasses. Hopefully the technology can. But let's see. So I'm going to take a photo of this receipt now with my phone.
Okay, so just do it. So I just moved the screen there by mistake. So watch Nitsan, who's in the middle of your screen, and he's taking his phone and he's now scanning the receipt. Okay, can you lift it up so people can see, Nitsan? I think it's
here it is.
Okay.
Good, and I will.
Can you show us the receipt? Just put the receipt round so.
Oh, sorry, I thought you saw it.
Nitsan can't actually see what's on screen because he's sharing the screen. Okay, so that's the receipt. Everyone can see the receipt. Okay, and then
you can see on the screen that it's now been uploaded, right? So this receipt was not available before. Now it is here, and this is a receipt for a restaurant.
Okay, so let me just come in here, Nitsan, because as I said, Nitsan can't actually see the screen that he's sharing. So what you can see now in the middle is a photo, which was the scanned receipt, and you see it was a pretty crumply old receipt that you had. It wasn't, we deliberately haven't done a pristine receipt. He's made it bigger, so you can see the receipt there, and it's for, I'm trying to see what it is, for £6.70, I think it says there.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's the receipt. Yeah.
A bit more with tax, but yes, that's for a bakery, Paducah Bakery, a very nice bakery. And what happened now is that instead of me now filling the details manually, the machine learning extracted the details from the receipt automatically and pre-populated my form. So I just can be as lazy as say who was the expense for and click next.
Okay, so I'm just going to come in on that again for the audience. So what we saw there is that it took the numbers off the receipt, which is the picture on the right of your screen, and it's pre-populated it with the supplier, the address, the date, and the amount, and indeed the currency, all on the left of the screen.
Yeah,
and
all automatically.
You can see how that happened just automatically. Automagic, I like to call it.
Yeah, and what will happen next is that the algorithm checks this receipt, make sure it meets the policy requirement. It does in this case. I'll show you later cases what happened when it doesn't meet the policy requirement. Automatically process that, and we will now make a live transfer to the bank account. So I'm going to choose here how I want the funds to be paid to me, to which account, and
so
we will.
This can be done anywhere in the world, and so we saw that receipt. I can't remember exactly what it was. It was £7.89. And the questions come in: does the system read multiple languages?
Yes,
and we're going to show it, aren't we? Yeah.
Exactly. And just as a reminder, we've shown it last time. This is the form where I need to submit my bank details. Automatically it checks and it sees that I've just put here a dummy number, and it says, hey, this number seems to be wrong, right? So reduce the number of wrong and manual mistakes and automate all of that. I'm going to choose here the same payment method.
The question we're flying in, Nitsan, the other question is, so the question we said was, does it read multiple languages? That was from Maria, and the answer to that was yes. And the other question that's come in from Joyce Johnson is, does it read multiple currencies?
Yes.
And again, we'll show you that. We're going to show you a Russian receipt in a moment, just to make it hard for ourselves.
And it also pays in multiple. Good. So I'm going to choose now how I want to get paid. And that's it. I'm done. The money is on the way to my bank account. We will look later to see if it arrived. In the meantime, I can leave a review about the restaurant. Has amazing bread and coffee. So I can also share my experience with my colleagues, and that's part of the Benivo concept of sharing our insights, our experience, and I can decide to share that, and I will gain points for that. And with these points, I will be able to get rewards later. So such as making a donation to a charity and everything else. We see now a security step. So I'm being asked to enter here what is called a two-factor authentication to verify my payment. I receive it to my email. Great. Now it's been submitted and will be reviewed by the algorithm. We'll get back to that in a minute. Let's have a look. In the meantime,
I should say, just whilst you're switching screen, Nitsan, just say we've got a few questions coming in, which I'll take in a moment.
Great.
I can see
we'll do that in a second.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we're looking at the bank account, and we can see here 251.41 pounds. £5 was the last transaction. Now we need to see those 7 something. I don't remember the exact amount. We will look at that in a few minutes to see if the funds arrive as fast as we think they can arrive. All right. So that was it. It was easy. It was hopefully for everyone simple, and we think that that's how expense management should work.
Okay, so well, you stop sharing your screen for the moment. We will come back and show you some more technology. Let me just pick up a couple of questions that have come in from the audience, and then we'll move on. But I think people are pretty blown away by this technology, and there's more to come. So the question was asked. Maria asked, "Does the system read multiple languages?" The answer is yes. Joyce asked, "And currencies?" The answer was yes. Another question, actually, I don't know the answer to that one. I'll ask you straight away, Nitsan, from Stephanie. Will it read handwritten receipts?
Yes, though in less languages than print, but working on it. So
okay.
I think in print it's over 50 languages. In handwriting it's about 15 most popular languages, but getting more languages as we speak.
Definitely wouldn't read my writing, I can tell you. So a question from Nicola. He says, I'll just put it up here. This is industry changing, guys. Thank you. We really appreciate that. With this, we're making the reimbursement process shorter and streamlined. Just remember how many times we were dealing with invoices months or even years after the assignment has already taken place. Nightmare would be over with this. Actually, Nicola, I'm going to tell you something else which we haven't even got onto, but I'll mention now, and I'm sure I'm going to mention again. Not only that, okay, this is industry changing, but it's free. Okay, for anybody using the Benivo platform, there is no extra cost, and most people have been paying, fees for this sort of service. Forget that. That's not happening anymore. We're doing this at no cost to anybody who uses our platform. It's just included within the standard fee. Other questions that have come in. A question from Claire. What do you have to do to define? Maybe this one for you, Beth. What do you have to do to define in terms of if it's in the policy, as you mentioned? In other words, how do you give the policy logic to the system?
Yeah, so we work with you to implement your policy for your population. So you can have the different rules and you just tell us what those policy areas are or the rules that you want to be applied.
Okay, and other comments that are coming in, and then we'll
and Brian, in the meantime, maybe you want to show my screen again. I'm just going to show that the funds already arrived to the bank.
Okay, just sharing it. Trying to show it now. There we go.
All right, so here are the 780, right? Remember before that, the latest payment was 5. Here, another transaction arrived to the bank account. We can see the total amount on this account. And that was quite fast, no?
Okay, so what we're saying is from the time that you walk out of that coffee shop with your receipt, you take a picture of it with your phone, to getting the money in your bank account was under 5 minutes. I mean, I don't know how long, I didn't exactly time it, but it took 4 or 5 minutes to get all the money through, and that was going through process. I mean, this really is extraordinary technology, and I'm so proud of everything. There's a few more questions that have come in, so I'll just ask those questions, then we'll move on if that's okay with you guys. From Apurva, and the question is there an approval process and a limit on the amount?
Yes, and we'll show that in a few minutes. Okay,
and I'll just put these other questions, and if there are questions you want to, sort of, as you said, deal with as we get on later on into the demo, then we'll do that. Other questions have come in from Joyce. Sorry if you mentioned this already. From where is the FX derived?
Yeah, it depends on the client requirement. So if the client wants to pay us for the expense is as many currencies as they want, that's possible. If they want all consolidated to US dollars or any other accounts, that's also possible. So it's really up to the client how they want to get to pay us for reimbursing their employees, and that's what define the Forex. Okay, and I've got 3 more questions which I'll just take now, and then we'll move on. From Andy, is the MVP at a point where policy limitations can be accommodated, e.g. per diem limits on meals or specific travel types and classes? And the answer is just yes, isn't it? Exactly. It's not MVP. It's much more advanced. You'll see it all in a few minutes. And this is actually being used, isn't it? I mean, this is not, this is live, and I know we use it internally, and we've got clients we're using it with. Let me just put the other questions up, and then we'll move on. Nicola,
the client has influence on the algorithm based on the policy you get from them? Question.
Yes, lots of questions about the policies. Maybe we'll get to that soon.
Okay, and one last question from Phil Smith, who I just saw he said earlier he's on his way back to Hong Kong where he's got a quarantine for 21 days. So good to hear from you, Phil. And he said this, looking good. Where are the funds from?
The funds can be paid either via payroll or paid by Benivo. Our funds either, and of course, eventually get billed to the corporate.
Okay, so let's move on then. Let's move the discussion on. We've done the demo, but maybe Beth, I'll just ask you, what did it used to be like? So we've shown the future, but maybe let's just step back a bit and say, we said here reinventing on the model, and again emphasizing this is now expense management for free.
Mm-hmm.
But in your experience, and I know you've worked, with various tech companies and with RMCs, and you've worked with loads of clients. What is it typically like at the moment?
Yeah, I think that's a really good place to start. So most people on this call will be having different challenges. So either they'll be processing their expenses internally, so they'll have their own resources, maybe having to scan things, fill in spreadsheets, compare them manually against the process, the policy, and then approve them. Or maybe you're using an RMC, and an RMC would follow something similar. They would get the invoices either through their portal or through email, and then they would send those off to either onshore and offshore resource to manually check them, to enter them into some kind of database, and then have an SLA that they meet. Normally a couple of days, 3 days maybe, although I'm sure many do work to faster timeframes than that, but there would be a few days as an SLA that would get back to be approved or with questions, and then there would be the approval process would be complete, and then there would be the start of reimbursement. But things to note at the moment would be, as a corporate, you're either paying for an internal resource, or for an RMC, you're paying a monthly fee for expense management per employee most of the time. Or maybe you're paying for expense management and you're also paying bank transfer fees per expense that's being reimbursed. And I've even seen cases where the actual amount that's being reimbursed, maybe somebody's submitting it a couple of times a month or 3 or 4 times a month, and every one of those charges or expense reimbursements goes through this process, and then every one of those charges gets a bank transfer fee attached to it as well.
So you could get a bank transfer fee of $20 for a $7 receipt.
You very much could, yeah. But that's because there's an SLA in place, and those RMCs are meeting that SLA. So there's those processes in place, and that's the way that I've seen the industry work. Okay,
so we've talked about the past. We've shown, I'm going to call it the future, but actually I think it's, in a way, it's the present, because we can do it. We can do it now. The future is here. But the question I'm going to ask, and I'll maybe ask this one of you, Nitzan, is that, and I'm sure everybody in the audience is thinking the same thing, is how does this technology actually work? I mean, it sounds, are you prepared to sort of just, open the door a little bit and show people exactly how it's doing it? What is the technology? What is machine learning? What is artificial intelligence? Just, in simple words for people maybe who aren't tech people, just explain exactly what is happening. How does this technology really work?
Yeah, so it's magic. That's it, right? It's,
there we go.
Magic.
It's magic.
But more seriously,
on Benivo Bytes, you just wave a wand, say abracadabra, and the receipt is immediately transformed into cash in your bank account.
Yeah, working with our team, sometimes I feel they make magic. And here, I think what we can, if we look on the components of what actually is happening, there are 2 main technology elements here. One of them is machine learning. The second is artificial intelligence. Let's talk a little bit, what do they mean, right? Machine learning is basically when the technology can improve and can become better by using it more, right? So there is an embedded algorithm that can replicate some real world examples, and then the more it's being used, the better it becomes. And maybe I can just show a little bit the behind the scene of how it works with regards to analyzing those receipts. So Brian, if you want to share maybe my screen.
Sure. There we
I'm
go.
going to show.
Great. Okay, so what we're seeing now is that I can see a fairly black screen. Stuff's coming up.
Black screen it is.
I can see there's a receipt that you come up. Okay, so here's a receipt, and I can't make out a word about it. So this goes back to the point that was made earlier. This is a receipt in. Oh, that's great. Let's see if even enlarged a bit. That's in Russian, I guess.
I believe so.
Okay, are there any Russian speakers out there in the audience that can tell us what it actually says? What it's a receipt for?
To me, this looks like Coca-Cola, but let's see what it is without promoting. But this is a receipt in any language, and basically we are seeing the behind the scene, right? That's not what the employee will experience. But let's see how the algorithm look at this data and try to analyze it. So I'll click here on telling them that this is a receipt. Good, let's run the analysis. And what it will try to do is to extract as much information from this receipt. And that's it. The algorithm finished to run.
So what you can see, so I can see now bits of the text have got little bits of red around them on the actual receipt. And then there, it's fairly small. If you make your screen larger, for those of you watching on LinkedIn, you might be able to see it more clearly. As you zoom into that, but so that is showing. Maybe just talk us through what you're seeing there, Nitzan.
So what we are seeing here is each data point that the algorithm extracted from the receipt. What is that data point? How does the algorithm categorize that? So, for example, tax, it identified the tax as 41.03, and how confident the algorithm is that this is the right analysis. And here we see
one of our Russian speakers has told me that someone had a Big Mac. That's obviously one of the items on the receipt.
Oh yeah, that must be this, right? The Big Mac. And we can see here that that the Big Mac was identified here by the algorithm, right? So the algorithm can read each of these data points, whether it's the date or the amounts or the tax, and tell us how confident they are. And if they are not confident, we can help and train it. And that's what's happening behind the scenes. So when the numbers here are low, we help with a manual process to teach the algorithm that this is actually tax. And that's how it becomes better. And the next time the algorithm will run, it will become even more and more accurate. And we are talking about running this in billions.
I just want to repeat this, Nitzan. So it's so cool, because I mean, I must, until I sort of got involved with Benivo and saw some of the technology, I didn't quite understand how this works. So what this has got is that on that screen on the right, which is what's happening behind the scene, it's telling you what it is, and then it's telling you how likely it is that it is correct. So it's saying it's 97% correct or whatever it is, that is the right thing. And then if it's below a certain cutoff level, that's when it reviews in and you check it manually. But it's learning from itself, and you have that confidence level, which it is so clever, I must say.
Yeah, and you can see the example here, right? There is the merchant name, so who is it buy from, and the algorithm is not sure, right? It put here a name, but it says it's only 50% sure that this is the name, and that's supposed to be, I guess, McDonald's, but it wasn't sure, right? So it will actually, in our case, the way we've built our technology, we will not use such a low likelihood of 50%, and we'll defer into manual input. But then the next time it will identify it, it will know for sure. All right, so that's a little bit about machine learning. Let's talk now about artificial intelligence. So I'm back to the platform. We see here that we had one expense that was approved. There was someone asked before about conversion, so I can see here the amount in dollars. And I want to add another expense here, and maybe it's going to be a mileage expense. So I can say from which location to from where I'm gonna go. I'm gonna say where do I wanna go from? I think Mountain View is the platform I'm in, right? So to Mountain View.
Just before we do that, just going back to the session we were just on, Maria asked the question: what is the source for interpretation of the items on the right? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, Maria, but it's taking it from the receipt and it's interpreting it on the right. Or maybe she's asking how does it interpret it, and that is the artificial intelligence, the machine learning that's doing that.
Exactly.
Okay, moving on. So we're now talking about
what is artificial intelligence? Is when the algorithm, when the computer makes decisions that people can make. In this case, we are going to look on a relocation from Cupertino to Mountain View. As we know, it's not that far. We can see on the map. And what we will see here is that this is less than the distance, it's only 6 miles. So the algorithm will flag that as a problematic relocation that doesn't meet the criteria. Let's say the criteria normally is 50 miles, and we'll flag that, and then we can choose if we want it to block or pass it to manual review. So that's one example how the algorithm check on the location bit. If I'm looking on other example, let's say I'm going to say I have a receipt here for that is related to my flight, and I'm going to upload it. It's going to be for excess baggage. Great, so I'm going to upload it. Again, the algorithm, the machine learning is now working in the background, scanning the receipt, extracting as much data as possible. I'm going to say it's for excess baggage. And I can see here, everything is already pre-populated, right? The supplier name, the address, the amount, the tax, that information. And I'm going to choose how did I pay. I pay by credit card, and it was for me and my partner. Great. And I'm going to look now into moving to the next step. And I can see here, so I did that too quickly. I can see here that the algorithm is flagging to me that I've requested more than the policy amount, right? So this is excess baggage. The policy allows me to request up to $300. And here I'm asking for $1,000 and almost $100. So the way the corporate that is using this, working with Benivo, ask to do it is ask, go ahead, capture the real data, and I'll show later how we use that data of how much they really spent, but only authorize $300. So now I can see that when I'm going to the next step, I will only receive $300 if I'm going to redeem these funds now, despite this showing me that my receipt is for a higher amount. And that's, we were asked before the examples of how is the policy being monitored. Here is another example. So we've looked at 2 examples where the AI helped us. Here, first, when the relocation was for a too short distance, it was less than the 50 miles. And then it blocked me from submitting the receipt because that's the policy that corporate wanted. Other corporate might say, okay, flag it as an exception. We can support that. And we will look later, how does it look when a manual review of an exception is required? So that was one example. Everything was calculated automatically on the fly. Second example of violation of the policy here is with the excess baggage. I'm asking for more money than allowed. Same with the meals. I can ask for more than the daily allowance, and then there are 2 options, or either we cap it with the maximum amount, or we allow the employee to, or we flag it for a manual review, or we can just block the submission. It's up to each corporate to decide which policy they want us to work, and that can change per location, per business entity, even per population or policy.
Okay, is it time for a few more questions, or do you want to carry on with the?
Yes, let's do a few questions now.
Okay, so let's take your screen off. I'll just remove your screen and bring you guys back. So, I mean, it's really, I mean, I'm just blown away by this technology. But I mean, I've said on previous shows that we get better technology when we're ordering a pizza than when we're managing a relocation. And that's the sort of standard we've given ourselves, is to try and get, if you like, retail levels of technology. And a point I would make about this technology is that there is technology out there that we all experience in the world. It's just we don't experience in the relocation world. For example, I think you and I were talking about this earlier, Beth, but when we have a check to pay, remember checks? When we have a check to pay in, I mean, with my bank, I think you said the same with your bank, Beth, is you can just take a photo or you can scan the check, and you don't have to physically go along to the bank to pay in the check. So your phone can again read all the data on the check. And that's similar. We're reading data and we're putting through. But so let me just go through some of the questions that that we've had. Here's a question, great question from Helen Grass and Shay. She says, how easily does this translate into the reporting format with attributed tax categories? Okay, so presumably which things are going to be, taxable, non-taxable, etc.
So probably very similar to your current policy. The first level is you ask the employee to categorize. So you saw Nitsan putting it into the relevant category. So that is selected, and then it's in that category to be reported out.
So when we
all
set
the tax rules are applied automatically, and we will look at that in a minute when we're going to look on the other side, right? Till now, we only looked at the employee view. In a minute or two, we look on the mobility view, where we will also have all the reporting, all the data that we never had, all in a single place. So that's coming.
Okay. And another question from Andy, and Andy's said, in his best, I'll put it up on screen here. It's a long one. In his best Columbo voice, which I'm not going to do. Just one more question. It's not unusual for clients to seek not only speed but accuracy SLAs. As machine learning improves, as you run data through it, what accuracy levels do you predict from implementation, and what level of manual review do you predict running at eventually? What impressive SLAs could we commit to with the system in play? Great question, Andy.
Good. And the level of accuracy we get here is guaranteed to be higher than manual, than the current process. And the way it is because, as you saw in the process, the algorithm, the machine learning, extract the data from the receipt, but I'm the employee, I'm looking at it, and I can, of course, fix if there was any mistake, right? So 99.9% it's accurate. In the 0.0, probably 0.001 cases, the employee is also reviewing that and can sort out, just like any other receipt that they would have submitted. So the level of accuracy is much higher. This is not a new technology, right? Expense management is something that exists, and it's something that has been automated in every industry in the world except for global mobility. What we've done is we've brought that, connected it with the specific requirement of global mobility, such as the tax reporting that was asked before, such as the policy compliance, put it all into a package. But this is a technology that's been tested and works on billions of receipts. Many more receipts now in the world are processed like this rather than manually. And now it's the time that also mobility, global mobility, start to benefit from this.
So, I mean, Nitsan, a lot of this is down to you. I mean, I know you started your career in financial services. So, I mean, seeing this interaction between fintech and mobility tech is just, I think it's just awesome. And it is radically changing the way that we do things. And again, I just want to emphasize to everybody, maybe I haven't said it enough, is there's no cost to this. This is technology, whereas in a manual service, there's fees every month or every transaction. This is absolutely just included as with no extra cost within the standard license. Now, there's a few more questions coming in.
Let's look at the management platform, and maybe it will answer some of the questions.
Move on. Okay, so why don't you show us the management platform then? And then
all right, so
we'll go back to the questions.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to open the view from the mobility manager. Right, and as the mobility manager, I can see now all the receipts, all the costs as they came. I can see here that one that we have just approved.
So shall I share your screen now, Nitsan?
Yes, please, if you could share my screen.
There you go. Your screen's on screen.
All right, so this is the view for the mobility manager. I'm looking at the cost tab that is now the area that I want to focus on. We can look on a separate show on the vendor expenses as they come. Now we are looking at the expenses that employees submitted. And I can see the one on the top is those £7 I spent in the bakery that was approved. And I can see here everything. And I can identify, of course, those that require manual review, because I've asked that I want to manually review. Some of them, I can see this receipt was flagged for a manual review. And I can see here, if I want to enlarge the receipt to see what are the details, I can see why it was flagged. I can see all the details that the employee submitted. And then I can decide if I reject it or I approve it. If I'm going to reject, I'm going to put the reason why I've rejected that. And that will also be added to the report and to the employee so they can decide if they want to submit. Maybe it was a meal and, meals are not approved, etc. I can put those records here and submit that. So just that how I manage that. Very easy, very intuitive. And what's also the other thing I wanted to show here is all about the data, right? So I can now, the fact that we have all this data coming from analyzing the data in really millions of receipts, we can discover new insights for the corporate. Right, I'll give you one example. We can see which vendors the corporates are spending their funds with and then source better deals for them with these vendors. We can see the feedback, the reviews, the recommendations. These we are already showing on Benivo, so others can use other vendors that they found as helpful. And we can look how long on average it takes us to make payment. We can see which receipts are pending, what amounts were sent out, and all I can filter either by employee or by business unit, by job level. I'm going to look in home country, I'm going to say India, and I can analyze the data by this. And I can see, for example, how much we spend every month, as well as using predictive analytics, how much we are going to spend in the coming months based on the traction of what happened in the past. So again, data is helping us to forecast.
So it's not just existing, looking back, we can do predictions as well.
Exactly. Incredible. Yes. And I can look into the type, right? So what are employees spending it by category? What's the breakdown between travel, hotel, transportation, any category that you would like to see? We can see on a map globally where those funds are being spent. We can analyze by job level, right? What's the average or the total spend or the average level by job level or by policy? I can see for those who want to get reimbursed, how they would like to get reimbursed, really any point of data that I would like to get, and it's all interactive. Here, for example, this is one of the most useful analysis we've seen. So if you remember before, when I submitted this excess baggage receipt, my amount was more than $1,000, but I was only authorized $300. And what this report tells us is exactly this. It tells me in green how much we've authorized for excess baggage on average. In gray is what employees actually spend. And immediately I can see that, with flights, we are paying roughly the cost. And with the airport transportation, we are, actually maybe a bit too generous because everyone is using everything. But we are not setting the right amounts for excess baggage for people coming from India. So we might want to tweak a little bit that policy and transfer some of the funds to that direction because we are not supporting our employees enough. And our ability to make smart policy decisions is completely transformed. And of course, all these reports are automatically translated to payroll reports with automatic gross ups and all the information that is required based on the classification, and each country and each corporate can share how customize that tax classification as well.
Yeah, certainly cannot underestimate the importance of the fact that we're tracking all of this for compensation reporting. So the fact that it's all going through the system, what's been approved, when it was approved, the currency it was approved in, that's just really powerful for reporting purposes, and it's all there.
Okay, so Nitzan, Beth, is there any more technology you want to show, or shall I take the remaining few questions in the last couple of minutes we've got left?
I think it might be time for some questions. Okay,
I'm trying to get every question done. I think we've got about 3 or 4 questions left, and then we'll finish up. So we might run over by a minute or two. So from Petra said, how are you managing questions if the system is showing less than what was requested? How does the support function know about the information that is pulled by AI? I'm not sure I fully understand that.
The support function being the in-house team that might get questions if the employee is not getting the full amount.
I'm guessing that's what Petra means.
So as Nitsan showed, it will show you on screen what the policy, so you're informing the employee straight away what the policy says, so that they should have that information up front. And it will just be consistent with the policy. So that would be the only reason the person wouldn't get the amount that, that they were requesting.
I hope we've got that. We've understood the question right. If not, Petra, feel free to just to re-ask it, because we're not quite sure exactly what we're meant to be saying to that one. A question from Rachel Henson: are you looking at using this tech for other purposes, e.g., collecting compensation data? Great question.
This tech could be used for uploading anything. I don't know which comp data would come in receipt format that would need to go through, but if you speak to us, and I'm sure we can dig into that a bit further.
Yeah, I mean,
the other place where we use a similar technology is around the vendor receipts, right? So we consolidate all the spend that is related to the relocation into a single platform, so we can create this total compensation report automatically. No need to extract data from different sources, all available at real time and can be shared with the business. So there's no need to do gymnastic on spreadsheets in order to figure out how much did this relocation really cost us. So yes, we are applying that on any area of spend under the total compensation. Hopefully.
Okay, and I'll ask two questions from Nicola. Do you foresee any involvement of the in-house teams in the post-implementation process? Who retains oversight over the policy/algorithm? I'm sure the answer to that is going to be the in-house team retains oversight over their policy. I mean, the machine does what it's told. So,
the machine does exactly as it's told, and the in-house team can have as much oversight as it wants. So you might have a team that want to review all exceptions, and that's absolutely fine. It can be different per policy or per population. The in-house team should decide what they're what they want to work with, whether it's amounts or types of expense that gets automatically approved, and it's just really flexible.
And here's another question, which might actually be the subject of a whole other show, is from Anne. She says, machine learning is great with insights and analytics, but could you please highlight other functions of mobility where this tech could be applied? Nitsan, there's a challenge here.
Yeah, so we've already applied, right, that for quite a few areas apart from total compensation, which I explained before, which is our lump sum solution. As you remember, our lump sum fully automated. I can apply, I can be initiated, and within 5 minutes, the funds will be in my bank account from the first initiation to the service, all through AI, artificial intelligence algorithms. There's a lot coming around this for cybersecurity and how we improve supply chain cybersecurity. That's, after Christmas, we will reveal some of the amazing work we are doing there. So many more places, yes, and that's our mission. And feel free to challenge us. Where else would you like to? Where are you frustrated with manual processes? Where would you like to get innovation? Where would you like to see technology make our life in mobility easier? And we will just build it.
Yeah, I know we're having a huge number of conversations internally about cybersecurity and the issues surrounding it. We're going to be telling you a lot more about that. You've got to wait for the new year. We're going to be doing that in January. But there's some really, really exciting stuff that we're going to be sharing with you. Not just exciting, actually, I'd say frightening as well when it comes to cybersecurity. And we're going to be sharing that with you in the new year. Last few words I'm going to leave to Talia Gorin. Let me just put that up one here. Amazing technology. Thanks for the fascinating demo. And then the very final word I'm going to leave to Karen O'Brien. FinTech plus mobility tech equals match made in heaven. Couldn't have said it better myself, Karen. And I would say, actually, whilst Karen's on screen, Karen is one of our wonderful Benivo change makers. We have this group of industry professionals who are helping us bounce around ideas on really cool tech, people who are passionate about tech, and who in return, we are helping them with charities they support. If you are a corporate out there and you've got a passion for technology and would like to join our technology change makers panel, and we've got over 50 members of that group, then send Nitsan or me or Beth or any of us a message, and we'll see whether you can get you onboarded as a change maker, and you can join in this group that is helping us create some amazing technology. Hope everybody's loved it as much as I have. Let me just bring Julia back on stage so we can all say goodbye to Julia too. Thank you, Nitsan. Thank you, Beth, and wish you better, Julia, with your cold.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you all next week.
Thanks.